Hey guys, it's David from 3D Make It coming to you live from the campground. Today we're going to be talking about VS Code, specifically updating Marlin to the current release version from a previous release version. Let's go. So before we jump into the process, let's talk about the why. Why do we need to upgrade to next release, especially when we're in the 2.0 build? Well, the answer is feature sets. So if your board is currently running, your setup's running good, you like the way it's running, and you're not buying new equipment, well, you might not have to upgrade, but you should always look at new releases because they add more safety features in, and actually it gets a little bit easier to configure. So now, all of that being said, let's jump into VS Code. So here we are in VS Code. Now this video assumes that either A, you have old firmware that you're trying to upgrade, or B, that you've used VS Code from our other videos and have a little bit of background knowledge and have it installed. If you don't have VS Code installed, we will link that video either in a card or the description, whichever one comes first. So this video is more to do with VS Code than any of the other plugins that we're using to compile Marlin. What we need to do is get our old Marlin up to date to the new Marlin. And that can be a tedious task, especially if you're just going to go through and rebuild firmware from the fresh every time Marlin comes out. In VS Code, when it opens up, you're going to see a revision release page. Platform IO may pop up. It may not. You can just close this window here. And then what we want to end up is basically on this file manager screen. So you can either close all the tabs, or we can click this Explore button in the top. Now right now I'm running an experimental build of VS Code, so it might look a little different than yours, but it's still VS Code. So we could see here that we have some options on the side. We're just going to shrink those for now because what we want to do is look at Marlin. Alright, so Marlin is Marlin. If you come to marlinfw.org, we're going to hit download and we're going to grab the newest release of Marlin. Now, Marlin has sub-builds in it, so you can see now that we're on 2.06. The example that I'm going to do today is actually from the beta of 2.0, so it's really old. Now, yes, I have been running new firmware on that printer since the beta, but I thought we could make the point better with the beta. So if you don't have it, jump over here, click the download zip, download Marlin, and we'll get ready to go. So you can see here that I have both Marlin 2.0, so that's the newest one that I just downloaded, and then we also have this old one which I just downloaded. So you'll note for the keen-eyed viewer that they both have the same date. Don't worry, I just downloaded the new one, and I downloaded my repository from my Google Drive of the original SX4. So we're going to be leveraging a feature in VS Code that lets us compare documents. Now, you can use Notepad++ and a lot of other text editors out there like Eclipse to compare two documents side by side and see what the difference is. VS Code has it built in, and it's something that we're already using. So I think it's easiest if we just stick there. So the first thing we're going to do is just get these folders extracted. Right click, extract all. That's all we're doing here. Now before we jump into VS Code, promise we're going to get there, I have to address the elephant in the room, and this is the biggest comment on the channel to date is, hey, all of the config example files are gone. Well, shortly after the beta, I think it was in 2.02, they actually removed the example files from the zip. So when you go into the zip and you go into config, you're just left with this README. So if you double click the README, choose the more apps, choose Notepad, and click OK, you can see here, hey, all of the configurations are gone and they're here. So if you literally copy and paste that link in, you're going to find the config files again, and they'll all be there for you to use, and then you can follow the steps in the other video successfully. So just wanted to get that one aired out. Alright, into VS Code we go. So you're going to see VS Code open. We've closed all the windows. We've clicked Explore. Explorer brings up a workspace basically. So when we click Add Folder, we're going to browse probably to our Marlin folder here. So we'll go to, so here's our two Marlin configs. This is wherever you zip them, so it's not going to be in a 3D Make It folder on the .io drive. It's just not going to be there. But wherever you unzip them, go there. We're going to choose, we're going to go into 2.06, and then we're going to pick probably, 2.0x. So we're just going to pick this 2.0x folder, and then we're going to click Add. And what VS Code will do is, you can see on the left hand side here, it's actually added a whole environment to our workspace. So we have a folder in our workspace. We're halfway there. Now, remember the top one was the new folder. So that's our new config. So we're going to right click anywhere in this dark space underneath. We're going to go add folder to workspace, and then we're going to go back to wherever we unzipped our other config file, and we're going to go in and we're going to select the correct folder. Now for me, I would probably select this one, but I'm going to actually go back and select this one just so that we know it's the SX4 folder that we're dealing with. So it'll add one more tree layer, and you'll see that in a second. It's not a huge deal. It's really personal preference, but we're going to click Add. So all we've done now is we've added two folders. The first one was our new Marlin, and you can see here now this one is our SX4 Marlin. And when you hover over in VS Code, it does give you the little breadcrumb trail to follow. Now, this is where the magic comes in. When you open your config file, right? So if we go into Marlin 2.0, down to Marlin, and then we're going to start looking at config H first. So we know it's there. And look here, it opened in this window as soon as we clicked it. I'm just going to go down, and I'm actually going to follow the breadcrumbs too on my other Marlin folder. So this was the first Marlin folder. Now we're in the second Marlin folder. And then if we go down and I click that one, it'll change. So bear with me, watch this magic in motion. Let's pick the first one. We're going to hold down Control on the keyboard and pick the second one. Right click it, and now when you look in the options menu from that right click, you can see compare selected. Boom, magic. You didn't have to download plugins in Notepad++. You didn't have to do anything, get another program. It's all in VS Code that we're using. Once you're in here, it's pretty straightforward, but just so we could see it a little bit better, we're going to shrink down the sidebar here in a second. But if we scroll up and down, you can see that along the side we have little red blobs. We've seen those before in VS Code. It's nothing scary. What all that means is that that's a line that they found a difference. So check it out. First line, copyright 2020. Is different from the old config file, which is on the right. So the new one on the left is the one that we're going to be editing. And as long as you're in the new file and you've edited something, it's going to pop up when you hit Control S for save. It will save that new file. We're not really going to be working in the old file. It's just there for comparison. So as we scroll through, you can catch it really easy. Like, hey, this line has changed. Here's a red. So now I know what changed. Oh, the version number. So we could see that the version here is that 2.06, whereas this one's like 2.0. So it goes way far back, relatively speaking. And we could keep scrolling and finding differences between the two. There's a few things that I want to mention, but you could see here at our config line that this line is different than this line. And you can actually come over here and grab the difference. So we'll copy between those brackets there, and then I'm just gonna come here and grab this and put it here and paste it in there. And then once your change is made and you fix the differences, the lines will match up again. If you see any red, that means that it's not done quite right. So if we look here, I'm missing my brackets between. I goofed, so let's put a bracket there and a bracket there. And you can see now, hey, look, we fixed it. The lines are the same. Some of the stuff you don't need to worry about. There's additions and subtractions in Marlin between versions, and they move them around. But you can easily see like, oh, hey, do I need to define a custom version file? And if you have in your other Marlin, then you can bring it over. There are sections, and specifically one that I will show you in a second, where you're going to want to be careful. But you can see here, like serial port, this one is different because the one side set to -1. Oops. So if we fix that and go -1, boom, fixed. And then if I keep scrolling down, oh, hey, my serial port is different. It should be 0. Boom, fixed. Now, I just want to let you know that, there, boom, fixed, 2 slashes. That when you're configuring your board between different versions of Marlin, always check the board name and boards.h, because here we have defined motherboard, and I have like the Big Tree Tech SKR 1.3, which is amazing. But if we bring back our file explorer here, and I'm just going to go really quickly into the boards.h, I'm going to bring it up in a different window just so we don't lose this. So bear with me 1 second. All right, so Marlin, it's the same string and everything. We're just going to follow the Marlin folder. We're going to go into the source, and then we're going to go into the core, and then we're going to find boards.h. Now, if you didn't follow that, it's in the Marlin folder, Marlin 2.0, Marlin, source, and core, and then that's boards.h. And in this case, we could open it really with anything. If I double click this file, it'll actually give me Visual Studio 2019, Notepad++, whatever we have installed. We can even just use the Notepad viewer. And what I want to search for here is 1.3. And what I'll do is I'll just go down until I find the Big Tree Tech 1.3. And we can see here that the board is now called Board BTT SKR version 1.3. So if we do a quick comparison, let's shrink this window and we'll close the search that we found it. Let's just whoop. You can see here define motherboard, board Big Tree SKR 1.3, board BTT. So they're different. They changed the name in the new Marlin. So always with boards, you have to make sure that you update the board right from boards.h. Scrolling down though, we can continue. So if we take that board name, which I cleverly just shrank, we know that this line is going to be different. But for me, I'm going to copy and paste it, and we can ignore it from here on out. The name is different. This is for my Core XY SX4. And we could see now that if I take those slashes away, it matches line to line, it disappears. This makes it super quick to scroll down and see what changed. Right here, even here, it's red. I could see, oh, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And this one just has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the difference. As long as this line matches this line, so your defines match, you're okay. Here's a whole new section that didn't exist in the old Marlin. I don't need to worry about enabling it. I didn't have it before. I'm not going to worry about it. So if I scroll down and just keep going, we can see those changes very, very quick. Now I want to show you one quick thing. So we're going to search for offset. And specifically, I want to show you the probe offset. Once we get there we go. Yay, we made it. So you can see here that I have my probe offset, and we could see on the old version of Marlin, probe offset was 10, -10, -1.46. Those are all really good numbers, but then look what happened. We come over here, and what happens is they're putting them in an array, so they're just making it easier for us, but it's all one line. So we're going to put our 10, our -10, and our 1.46. Oops, I think that was a -1.46 there too. But as we add these things, we could see now this is correct. Now, it would be nice if there was a little, sometimes hint along the way, but you can see here that if we scroll down, it says define nozzle offset 10, 10, 10, 0. And it does give you examples. Specify the probe position as X, Y, and Z. So it's very important to read the new comments in any program that we're looking at or trying to develop in. And we can see here, so this one must correspond to this X. So here I had X probe distance. Okay, so that one must go there. There's a few sections like this, little gotchas along the way that are awesome, but fun. So that was a lot of VS Code. But the compare feature is super powerful in VS Code. Yes, it's available in other editors, but we're in VS Code, which means as soon as we save that config.h file and config.advanced file that we compare in both editors, or both sides of the editor there, we can actually open the project in Platform.io, which we put a video out on, hit compile, not ignore the error messages above the failure part. If you're having problems, that's what we need to see. We don't need to see like failed. We need to see like all that yellow and red text above. Oftentimes it's something simple, especially when we're transferring between firmwares. It might be blatantly obvious, like, hey, you didn't define the proper nozzle offset. And you can go back and find that section. Or if you're referencing it, you can get help quicker. And we're happy to help on our Facebook group and Discord. But hey, you guys are awesome. Thanks for joining me. We got some awesome new merch. We'll put the link down in the video there. Some Teespring shirts, just for fun. Hey, if you want to buy them, great. If you don't have to. We just appreciate you guys coming, hanging out, watching the videos. Remember, like, subscribe, share around. Be safe out there. Until next time, have a good one.